Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2023 Suzuki GSX-S1000GT. This is a mouthful of a name. That's how Suzuki does their vehicles here. But what this really is an excellent sports tourer. And this bike has been around for a while with a lot of riding reviews, and it's been receiving all kinds of positive reviews. What I'm going to do is try to hit on some of the things that the other reviews aren't hitting on. So what we're going to do is an in-depth review of this. We're going to look at some of the features and some of the things that make this a really great bike for you. And we're going to help you decide if it's best for you or if it's not. So I'm filming here at McLean Sports, and if you are watching this video, they give me complete access to their entire vehicle line, and this doesn't have to be the only video I'm gonna make of this. I'm a big fan of this style of bike. I'd like to come back, but I'd like to know what your questions are. So if you have questions about this bike that you just haven't found the right answers to, make sure you let me know in the comments below, and even if I don't cover it in this video, I'll come back to you both in the comment section and in future videos. And that's what's awesome about McLean Sports here, is they're giving me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. If you're in Fredericton, New Brunswick, there's a link in the description. You can check them out. You can come see this thing in person. But even if you're outside, they're willing to help you through me. So make sure you give this video a like and hit the subscribe button for me so they can see that they're gaining subscribers through their product line. And like I said, if you like Suzuki stuff, KTM stuff, there's all kinds of stuff we're going to cover here. We just did a KTM the other day here. Got a lot of stuff coming up, including a lot of 2024 stuff coming up in the very near future. So that's what we got going on here. Let's go with the in-depth review of this bike. So let's just briefly talk about what this bike is and how it fits in the class, because this is a brand new bike with a lot of new technology, which has, some people might consider it to be an older engine. We're going to talk about that because that's not fully true either. And some people would say it's kind of an older design as far as a concept, even though it's very modern in its bodywork. Because what's going on in the sport touring market right now, especially in this 1000cc, the larger sport touring class, is a lot of manufacturers are moving to a upright adventure style bike for their adventure touring kind of class, which are, sometimes those adventure touring bikes are far more on-road bikes than off-road bikes. This is a true sport bike in the sport touring fashion. So the way you can think of this bike is a little bit more of a Porsche 911. It is a luxury sport bike, but it's not the full-out track mode Porsche 911. It's that, regular, really, really good, high-tech, lots of features, also very comfortable, but still a sports vehicle. And that's what this is. And if you think of the adventure style bikes, many of them are far more into the sort of luxury SUV version of a motorcycle. So if you think of it like that, you can kind of get a sense. And why are they moving away from this? Well, the same reason. People want that versatility, that upright riding position. But at the end of the day, Suzuki's come up with something that's pretty unique here, because this gives you that low center of gravity. It gives you a whole bunch of sport bike advantages, but it still gives you a comfortable seating position. So let's jump over back to the side view here. We'll talk about seating position. We'll talk about the overall rider's position, and then we'll start digging into the features of this bike so you can really kind of see if it works for you, because there's a lot to talk about. So when you first look at this bike, it looks just like a sport bike with saddlebags in this case. And a lot of people are kind of turned off by that. They just assume it's not going to be comfortable for them. What I would do is encourage you to swing by your Suzuki dealer, swing by McLean Sports here, and try it out for yourself, especially if you're considering a more adventure style bike, because you may be missing out on a level of fun. So a couple things are going on here. First of all, I'm very comfortably upright here. Now, I do have a slight forward lean. An adventure bike would be a little bit more like this. I have a slight forward lean. It is not an uncomfortable lean for someone like myself. What it does do is put you in a really nice position for sport riding. You can get low in the tank, you can get underneath, and as you head into corners and that kind of thing, you can kind of lean in and around, and you're in that really aggressive riding position if you want to be. But I could quite easily tour all day. Now, if you were, really, like, I don't have a great back, but if you had a really bad back or really bad other things, then sure, go with an adventure bike. But basically, if you're a generally healthy, generally active type person, this seating position, although slightly forward, is not at all uncomfortable. There's very little weight on my hands. I can keep that seating position quite easily, without putting any issues there. And although you have good wind protection here, you're still going to face some wind on your helmet, which is going to take some of that weight off, especially at speed. What this bike is great for is high-speed touring, but also high-speed cornering, good low-speed cornering, good sort of fun sort of driving around town. Now you can see seat heights. I don't even check the specs of seat heights on bikes anymore, because what I've noticed is a seat height can be listed as within an inch or so of each other, or even a couple inches of each other, and it feels different. So what you have here in a 4-cylinder engine, which is a fairly wide bike, sometimes they don't narrow the seat down a whole lot in this area. I'm about 6 feet tall. I am so easily flat footing. And that's one of the benefits of this bike over these adventure style bikes. If you get the adventure style bikes, they tend to be something that sits you much higher. And even for myself, I'm on tippy toes. And if you don't like that insecure feeling of being on a taller bike, this sets you lower. So you have benefits of handling, you have benefits of ease of just hopping on and feeling very comfortable. And then the other thing is, this is a 1000cc bike. I'm gonna put the kickstand up here. It is still very easy to move left and right. And again, because the weight is low. Sometimes when you fill a large tank in a touring bike or an adventure bike, it sits up higher, and that heavy tank up high makes the bike feel heavier than it actually is. So again, if you're comparing the spec sheet between this and a taller touring type bike, this one is going to feel lighter, it's going to feel more secure because your legs are close to the ground, and you've got the tank a little bit lower, so even when you fill it with fuel, the general center of gravity is going to be lower. Now, the flip side is your legs are going to be in this angle. For me, this is a completely comfortable angle. A lot of people say they want to be square like this, and that's fine, but because your forward lean is just a little bit there, you don't have to be square like this. You can kind of put your legs back and put your body back, and you're in a very similar position as you would be on an adventure bike. It's just the whole thing is canted slightly forward. So I find this to be a very, very comfortable seating position, and that's a real key piece for me if I'm gonna get a bike that's capable of touring. The other thing is, a lot of touring bikes and adventure style touring bikes have a fairly wide handlebar, which gives you a lot of confidence in riding. And then sport bikes have narrow clip-ons. This one has a handlebar. We're going to look at it closer in a second, but it still feels fairly wide. And what's cool about this is the overall aerodynamics of this. They put a lot of thought on this. Obviously, you've got the big windshield. That's going to be standard for the class. You're going to have pretty good wind protection on anything in the class. There's not going to be a whole lot of differences. Anybody in a review that's nitpicking on wind protection in this class, these are very well-designed aerodynamic bikes. But even the mirrors here are placed out there to diffuse the air over your hands, so you don't have that direct wind blast, that direct, insects coming right at your hands and have those, things hitting you. So the whole thing is designed for aerodynamics to make it comfortable and simple. And like I said, for a seating position, this is something I could ride a long time. And there is enough room to move around. I can move back quite a ways, I can move forward quite a bit. So, you think about, certain bikes, like big full touring bikes, they don't give you a whole lot of room to move around either. This one does give you some room to move around, and you can be comfortable. Now let's dig into some of the specs that are going to make it both comfortable and high performing, and there's technology in here that's going to make it easier to live with. So let's dig into some of that stuff right now. All right, so I always like to start off with the front wheel on a motorcycle because, as I always say, the front wheel tells you everything about the intent of this bike. And I think there's some interesting things going on here. Obviously, typical sport bike stuff. You got upside down suspension, you got Brembo brakes. Brembo brakes are actually a little different, but they're radial mount calipers there. So you've got some good stuff. But let's just start with the tire, move our way up and through what we've got here. The tire is a Dunlop Road Sport 2 tire. Now, bike snobs will tell you that this is not as good of a tire as you could get on this bike. And what is classified as a good tire can really vary per rider. There are bikes in this class with stickier tires than this. And this is something that you have to decide about the type of riding you're gonna do. If you are buying this primarily as a sport bike that you can also tour on, yes, you may want to upgrade the tires earlier on. If you are buying this as a touring bike that's really an all-purpose kind of on-road bike that still gives you great sport handling, these are probably going to be perfectly fine for you, and you can make a decision after whatever many kilometers it takes to wear through these. But again, these are tires that may have less stickiness than the higher end tires, but they will also have a longer tread wear than some of those higher end tires that are a little bit stickier. So you've got that balance here in the tires, and I think that fits kind of who they feel the rider of this bike is going to be. You can always upgrade. They're in a size you can upgrade for both more durability or both more grip, but what they're putting on here is a perfectly fine tire for, I think, what most people are looking at. You've got obviously dual disc brakes here, radial mount, so they're coming on here. That's what you want for strength, and of course you've got Brembo brakes. Brembo brakes are going to do a lot of things for you. They're going to give you great feel. They're also going to give you a lot of power and a lack of fade compared to other types of brakes. So you've got high-end brakes, and sometimes it's just fun to say, hey, I drive a vehicle with Brembo brakes. My motorcycle has Brembo brakes, and that's just something that some people point out, wow, they've got Brembos. It does. Whether that makes a difference to you or not, you do know that you're getting at least quality components. ABS ring there, of course, you've got ABS. We'll talk about all that stuff later. And then you've got this gold fork too, which gives it a little bit of accent to the black paintwork here, black bodywork, and different types of black on here. And of course, they're upside down forks. That's what you'd expect in a bike of this price class, a bike in this general class, and a bike that is a sport bike. They give you more stiffness up top, less unsprung sprung weight down here with the alloy wheels as well. So you've got everything you need to have a sport bike with a little bit extra touring durability in the tire. And again, that's going to be something that you have to decide if that fits you or doesn't. And again, at this price point, if you need to swap it out, not a huge deal to swap that out earlier on if you wanted to. But I would say you'd probably be very happy with this tire combination for most of the riders that I think are going to buy this bike. So now let's take a look at the heart of the bike here. Now you have to remember, a 1000cc bike is still a big bike. There's bigger adventure bikes and that kind of thing, but a 1000cc bike is still big. And what's cool about this is the original basic block from the legendary Suzuki sport bike. That 1000cc is put in here now, and a lot of people say, oh, this engine's been around forever, but that's true and not true. While the basic pieces of it, the design has been out forever, it's not like you're buying a 16-year-old engine in this. You're getting a brand new engine, and it's got all of the components put onto that basic block that give you modern emission standards, modern control, electronic throttle, all those kind of things. So you've got a great engine that's always been great for power that now also gives you great efficiency, great emissions regulations. It's just a fully modern bike with, you know, the retooling, and that's part of how a lot of bikes in this class are going to hit certain price points, but also give you something really good. You're not going to design a better 1000cc engine for this bike by retooling from the beginning. What are you going to get? 2 more horsepower, 3 more horsepower? Like, it doesn't make sense. So you've got a fully modern engine here. The other thing that is fully modern is this aluminum frame. It is awesome. It is stiff. It's got the back section on here, which looks really cool, kind of color matched to that front fork here with that little bit gold bronze kind of feel there. But you can see right off the bat, a lot of openness here, a lot of density there, 19-liter fuel tank. So again, all of this is sport bike-like. Weight is centralized, weight is low, it's kept in place, and it feels like a much lighter bike than it actually is for a very big bike. And that's all due to this really good aluminum frame, that sport engine that's mounted down low, 4-cylinder engine in there, 999 cc's. So well done there. Brake pedal there we're not going to talk about. We are going to talk about the shift lever on the other side when we get there, but let's just keep coming our way back a little bit more now. One of the key selling pieces to this bike, in my mind, is the fact that you can have factory luggage stuck on here that's solid and lockable. So let's talk about how this works and what this is. We're going to stick the ignition key in there, we're going to unlock it, we're going to pop this open. Very easy to do, and it pops open like that. You've got this little clip that can hold your stuff in there. And let me just see if you can see what I want you to see. Let's come a little bit further this way, because let's go in there for a second. Sorry for my poor camera work, but I want to keep it on the same shot here because I want to show you what I think is super cool. They do a little bit of details in here, like this tensioner piece that's holding this bottom piece there. It actually retracts into this little holder there, so you don't have a string hanging around catching on your stuff in there. You can put, I would guess you could put a full face helmet in there. I'd be very surprised if you couldn't, but you can put all of your weekend's worth of gear on there. There's a couple benefits to this. First of all, it does have a nice rubber gasket. I don't know if you can see my finger. There we go. Has a nice rubber gasket over here, so it is something that's going to seal fairly comfortably. If you're ever super concerned about it, you can always wrap stuff in a waterproof situation there. But I think between the design of the overlapping of the plastic, which you can sort of see here, the overlapping of the plastic, and having the proper gasket around there, you're going to have pretty good water sealage or water protection in there. You know, at least pretty good anyways. But one of the cool things is that they are fully lockable. If you think about a typical sport bike, you can get soft bags and put them on anything, but this means that anything you put in here, if you walk away from the bike, you've got it locked in place and it's good. And again, if you want to take them off, you've got that sport bike look as well. So to me, having hard, lockable, relatively water resistant luggage that fits in and is very secure at speed, that is a huge selling benefit to a bike like this. You just don't see that very often on a sport bike, and this gives you very good stuff. So really want to point out that the luggage, in my opinion, is quite good. So we've looked at the luggage, we need to mention the seat as well. This is a bike that of course has the power and relatively good comfort to take a passenger as well. Now to me, this style of bike is still best suited to an individual rider for a long, long tour. I do think that some of the adventure bikes have a little bit bigger seat back here for a secondary passenger. That being said, if you're doing a quick weekend trip and you've got someone who's comfortable on the back of a bike, you've got all the hand grips you need back here, you do have a seat that's big enough, plush enough, and comfortable enough to take people to take a passenger for a ride. But to me, again, it depends on how often you're taking that passenger to me. I still think this is primarily a great single person touring bike, but yeah, power and comfort wise, you've got everything you need if you want to take that secondary person. And I think that's pretty common for this kind of thing. A sport bike is more fun with a single person on it than with a passenger as well. And but you're very capable to take someone for afternoon, weekend, even a full tour on this, but it is a little small, although plenty cushy enough to do that. So let's start to dig into some of the technologies. We mentioned we're going to show you the shifter on this side. This is the rod that you really want to pay attention to. This is a regular shifter, but it is also a quick shifter. So you have a 6-speed transmission that you can shift like a regular motorcycle, but the quick shifter allows you to tap it into first gear and then have an up and down quick shifter. And what that means is you do not have to pull the clutch if you have the quick shifter set to on in any of your upshifts or your downshifts. You just have to use the clutch to get into first gear, and then from then on you have a lightning quick shifter, which is super fun to use. It makes the bike both more rideable, but also a lot more fun as a sport bike. So you have that here. You can turn it on the dash. We're going to show you that in a second there. But it's worth pointing out that that is something that's on this bike that really changes the character for those lightning quick shifts. And the way it works essentially is it's going to cut the ignition timing as soon as it senses the movement, just long enough to get it into gear and bring it right back on. So it is an instant shift. It's super cool. All right, I just want to quickly show you the front before we move into some of the technology, especially the dash environment here. One thing I kind of like is the amazingly good light down here. That is your headlight there. You've got the daytime running lights. One thing I don't like is your high beam is not always on. So again, you have that asymmetrical look here. These are really good. You can't really see on the camera, but I can really see the light that they project is super clean, super clear. And the nice thing with these LED white lights is the color they put off is closer to daylight in color. And what that means is that your eyes are going to be able to really identify the difference between something like a rock and a raccoon, because they're so used to seeing things in daylight color. So that's what's great about LED lights, but I'd like to see that one come on as well. That being said, lighting is just not an issue. It's fantastically bright and very well focused. So that's a very good thing. Now let's move our way in from there up to the dash on this side here. All right, taking a look at the driver's environment, especially the dash area, you can see a really nice 6.5-inch display here. We're going to turn that on in just a second. But before we go there, this is a little bit rare in a modern sport bike. You don't have clip-ons, you have a handlebar. Now, I'm a fan of handlebars on anything that's a touring style bike because the handlebar usually gives you a few more options to add a few accessories like a cell phone mount or a GPS or those kind of thing. Now, I want to be clear, you don't have to mount a cell phone or GPS because you have an app that can work with your TFT display here that can give you things like navigation, put your contacts in, let you know who's calling on your phone. There's a whole bunch of controls that you can do through the app, and that's another video. So if you want to see video on the app that goes with this bike, let me know in the comments below, and I'll make that video for you. If you kind of maybe have seen it other places or heard about it or know enough about it, then I won't make it for you. Won't waste your time or mine, but I'd be happy to show you that if you want to. So a lot of cell phone connectivity in here, so you don't have to mount a cell phone here. If you did want to mount a cell phone or something else here, there is this little piece right here, which is a nice waterproof covering, or water resistant for sure covering, of a USB port that is mounted there as standard equipment. So you've got the ability to power something up. The other thing you can't really see, if we kind of zoom in a little bit, let's just see if we can show you around it anyways. You do have fully adjustable front suspension here, which you can kind of see here. You've got both sides going to be adjusted for the tension is what they call it. Harder and softer, but you can adjust the suspension more than that. Front and rear suspension is fully adjustable. So let's go back to our view over here and turn on the bike so you can see it come to life. Let's just get that zoomed in look one more time. There we go. So turn the bike to on, you have lights all around that come lit up. You can see the screen comes to life a little bit, and then you have a really cool Suzuki logo. Now, I want to be clear that whenever you're filming a TFT display, the camera never films it very well. It's just the way it works. So it's always going to look fuzzier, oftentimes a hair out of focus, and sometimes flickering on camera. It is a crystal clear and very large display, and I like what Suzuki's doing with their TFT displays. They're still giving you a traditional tack. When you've ridden a motorcycle, we never know or care about if we're at 7,000 or 8,000 RPM. We just kind of want to know in the graph where we are compared to red lines. So when you have these fancy tacks that kind of go up like this, sometimes at a glance it's a little harder to tell, am I 3/4 of the way there, am I all the way there, that kind of thing. So you've got a good traditional looking tack here, digital fuel gauge there, a lot of information, trip ones, trip A, trip B, that kind of thing. But what I want to do is sort of focus on some of the stuff on the right side here. So I may have to cut in to do this, but let's just keep going if I can sort of do it for you right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the selection there. So there's your drive modes kind of setting there. So you have an A, B, and C setting, so you can customize those up like that. You also have the ability to go to your traction control, and you can go into off, and then you can go down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 5 settings. Sorry, I thought it was less. Up to 5 settings there for your traction control, so you can customize that out, which is again more than many competitors have. And then you can go over to your quick shifter. So this is your quick shifter, which you can turn on or off as well. And I really like that because it's very simple to do. We're going to show you the controls to do that. You can control all that very quickly. So again, typical stuff down here. I don't think I have to show you everything. You got fuel efficiency, those kind of things, all the typical stuff down there, but really good access up there to some of your main functions, which I really like. Those drive controls, drive modes, that kind of thing, right on the dash. So very good display here, easy to read, and very easy to use. Let's show you the controls that you would use to control that display and the bike. All right, so as we take a look at the left-hand side of the bike here, the clutch side here, first of all, the clutch is very easy to pull. One of the things you should know about the clutch is, of course, Suzuki has their traditional system where if you're in first gear and you dump the clutch without giving enough throttle, it'll sort of electronically match that throttle. So great beginner bike feature, but let's be honest, if we're experienced riders, it can smooth out some of our own mistakes as well. So you've got that feature in there. One of the things you can't see very well is this little trigger right here. That's gonna flash your high beam or push it on to put your high beam on. So again, easy to reach. What I like about this is these controls look small, but they have a lot of definition for you. You can really have a deep section in there. So even with gloved fingers, you're gonna be able to sort of feel where you are on here. They're not as big as others, but I don't think that's a huge issue because they have a lot of pointiness to them. So you really know when you're on the exact piece that you need to be on, because that's gonna point or push through leather gloves or other gloves. So, you know, you don't need to have huge controls. Smaller controls are easier to reach, but you do need to know where you are without looking. And because they have such a defined area, like sharp points here, sharp points, and when I say sharp, they're not sharp, but they are very defined points on all of these pieces. You definitely know where your fingers are on all of these controls. These are really heavily indented controls, which allows them to, in my mind, to get away with a little bit smaller controls that are easier to reach, but still have a very clear sense of where you are. So I like the controls there. Okay, back, moving along the various menu items right there, pretty simple to use. Signals, horn, and then you have your cruise control down here. So again, cruise control is within easy reach. If you're looking for a hazard switch, let's just go across. We'll show you that right now. Over here on the throttle side, pretty simple stuff. You've got the kill switch that's tied into the start switch right there, so you can have that. You also have your hazard lights, which are very easy to turn on and off, and your cruise control can be turned on here, but the resume in the set, of course, with a gray button there on the other side. So throttle, easy to reach. Again, electronic throttle, so there's really no play or anything in there. It's just always feeling really good. Adjustable brake lever here, but not an adjustable clutch lever, so you can have that brake feel exactly like you want. And again, those Brembo brakes are gonna feel great. So let's talk about who this bike is for. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about that adventure versus sport touring rider, and that's something you're gonna have to decide. Do you wanna go with another brand or even within the Suzuki lineup to sit a little bit more upright with good power, or do you want that sort of Porsche 911 kind of feel, something that's low to the ground, you know, a little bit lower ground clearance, lower center of gravity, you know, not uncomfortable in any way, but a little bit more sporting riding position, and have that little bit more interaction with the roads. So that's one of the things that this is gonna give you. Once you've decided on that, you have to kind of deal with what I'm about to deal with in the comment section. Are you the kind of person that wants all the features and stuff in here? The technology in this bike is immense, both in the riding technology, all the way up to the dash technology. Some of us, you know, can't be too far away from our phones, can't be too far away from, you know, a navigation system that can be built in the dash. All those things, some people are like, hey, I don't need that kind of technology on my bike. Well, then that's fine. This bike isn't for you. But if you appreciate some of these technologies, they seem to me to be fairly easy to operate and use, and they allow you to have a main screen that gives you things like a GPS, a main screen that gives you things like your phone contacts and all kinds of other types of things, as well as the ability to sort of track some rides and keep some idea on some stuff, you know, of where you've been riding. So that's all tied into an app, and that's a piece of this bike that I think, if it matters to you, is really gonna add value. If it doesn't matter to you, hey, you're paying for it anyways, it's up to you if that makes it worthwhile. Now, what I like about this bike is because it is a little lower to the ground, you have that inherent benefit of being able to reach the ground a little easier, which makes this bike feel lighter, makes it feel more easy to operate. If you're just gonna be zipping around town, you can do that. And this is a 1000cc bike, where a lot of 1000cc bikes, they really need to be let out on the open road. This one, you can still drive it around town with that easy clutch, with that you know, lower center of gravity, easy to put your feet down, that kind of thing. It's fine to drive in town. And what's nice about that is because you have luggage, if you're just doing your run around and need to stop at a store and get some stuff, you can stop at 2 stores and keep your stuff locked in the side cases, which is always a thing I find when I have my soft luggage, is I can go to the store, but I can only go to one store because I've got soft luggage that can't be locked. So now you've got luggage that can be locked, and you can do your short-term run around, and that allows you to get out on a bike more often, right? If you only can ride it for a tour or a weekend or an evening, that kind of thing, you're not going to be using it in your day-to-day life, then maybe it's not worth it as much. But this bike you can use in your day-to-day life. The last thing you have to consider is, do you want a tourer? This thing is going to be an awesome tourer with speed. So if you're like me, you kind of toured around all the roads around your house and now you want to go out further. Maybe it's an hour or two out on the open highway that you want to get to your destination. Having cruise control, having the big windshield, but still keeping that sporting position so when you get to those fun rides, you can drive it like a sport bike. That's where this bike shines. It is absolutely going to be fun to drive. It's got a lot of power. It's got a really flat torque curve, and it's going to be easy to drive in a variety of situations. And again, once you do all that fun sport riding, you're gonna have to come back home when you're a little bit more tired. Like I said, the seating position here is still very comfortable. That cruise control, all of that makes it a worthwhile bike to get. So whether you want to tour, whether you want to do longer rides, whether you're just zipping around town and need some practicality as well, this is a bike that can basically do it all as long as you stay on the pavement, and that's a real strength to this bike. So if I didn't answer some of the questions that you have, let me know in the comment section below, because I know there's a lot of technology in here that I didn't dig into that I could dig into more for you. This is a channel where I'm absolutely willing to do that. So let me know what you think about this bike. If you own this bike, let me know what you love about it so that I can help people understand what they like about it as well. And of course, if you want to see this bike, we're here at McLean Sports. There's a link in the description. This is in Fredericton, New Brunswick. You can come down, you can check this bike out with a whole bunch of other bikes. They have a massive new showroom. They used to be a smaller store. They have a massive showroom here, all kinds of stuff to see, summer, winter, any season of the year. This is a destination store worth coming to see. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you in the next one.